Here's the statement from the Denver Broncos issued on Monday morning, the day after a disastrous 51-14 loss to the Rams, owned by Stan Kroenke, who's connected to the Walton family, that he married into the Walton family. Talk about an embarrassment. Talk about an awkward moment at the late Christmas supper. Stan Kroenke and the Rams having a horrible year, one of the worst years ever for a Super Bowl champion, still beat the Broncos 51-14. And when you look at everything else that happened in that game, you had the Brett Rippon and Dalton Risner moment on the sidelines where Rippon apparently was sent over by Russell Wilson to complain and then got shoved away by Risner, and then the fight that Randy Gregory was part of, and it just there's sideline video, and you can see Rippon get shoved away. Just the whole thing had reached a point where it imploded, and I had to give Nathaniel Hackett credit. The team wasn't quitting. The team wasn't giving up. When they were down 27-0 to the Chiefs not that long ago, they got back into the game and made it very interesting.
Right.
But when it broke, Chris, it broke. That dam broke and flooded the entire countryside, and the Broncos did what we knew they were going to do anyway. We knew that Nathaniel Hackett wasn't going to make it to next year.
Right.
They weren't going to give him another year. They didn't hire him. From day one, he did not pass the smell test as an NFL head coach. He just didn't. And the only way to find out if a coordinator is going to be a good NFL head coach is make him one and see what happens. Kevin O'Connell, great. Mike McDaniel, great. Brian Daboll, great. Matt Eberflus, jury's still out, but at least he can play the part. Hackett couldn't even play the part from week one with all that confusion and delay, and they're not getting the plays in, and they're kicking a field goal. They're trusting the kicker that he can make a 64-yarder. Are you kidding? I mean, it was just weird from the first week, and it never seemed to get any better. And at one point, I thought they were committed. Well, I know. They were committed to keeping him until the end of the season. They didn't want to join that very small list of teams that failed to have a coach make it through his first year. They wanted to get to the end of the season and then move on. Sunday's game, 51-14, and all that other stuff around it, they couldn't wait any longer. It was time for them to make their move, and they did.
Yeah, he's been reeling all year. I mean, you said it. It's really been ever since the 46 left hash to start the season in a game where they outplayed Seattle and kind of let it slip away with turnovers on the goal line, right? And ever since that point, it just was, kind of one not so good, not so flattering type of story after another. And then I think when you add on top of that, just the way the quarterback has developed in the system and the way he's looked. And, of course, this is Nathaniel Hackett. He's supposed to be an offensive coach, a quarterback guy, all the talk about how much Rodgers and him got along and what he did there. So you're expecting better results there. And, yes, then the play on the field. And then, this is one that was easy. It was sitting there in the room, again at NBC in the third quarter going, well, this is the kind of game that even though they didn't want to fire you until after the year, they fire you when the game's over because it just was an absolute disaster. The scoreboard, the sideline shenanigans, and, again, the biggest problem with this issue is the guy that's making $250 million is playing the worst on your football team. And that, that's where I feel for Nathaniel Hackett because no one could have saw this coming. And, of course, he's a part of this process and doing this. But, this is a lot of Russell Wilson problem too. This is. And that's where I feel for him a little bit. And it's just that was a horrible look right there. And the interceptions that Russell Wilson threw, if you told me that was the first game he played in the NFL, I would have gone, hey, it looks like it. I think this is the first game he's ever played. It's mind-boggling what's gone on there in Denver with Russell Wilson, and just not shocking that this is what happened as a result of the Christmas Day massacre there.
I don't want to get too far off pace because we have a lot of things to talk about regarding this, but I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you believe Nathaniel Hackett took that job with the understanding, with the expectation, with the hope that they would get Aaron Rodgers, not Russell Wilson?
I don't think he took that job because of that, but I think he thought there was a real chance or a possibility that he was going to get one of the two. Yeah, I do. I think there's a real part of that, and I think he thought there was an inside track that he would actually get Rodgers. I don't doubt that. I think that would have been a lot easier and a smoother transition. And again, the way that played out. Oh, wait, Rodgers said he's going back to Green Bay. A few hours later, they signed Russell Wilson. I mean, he was obviously their number one choice. They could say whatever they want to kind of put the whatever spin they want on it. But, yeah, I got to believe that's part of it, Mike, for sure.
I think they laid the foundation for the Russell Wilson trade with the understanding that was the plan B. And the moment they knew what Aaron Rodgers was going to do, they either trade for him or they trade for Russell Wilson. And they worked very hard from a PR standpoint to say it was coincidental.
Yeah.
Folks.
No way.
There are no coincidences. There are none.
None.
So I think they thought they were getting Aaron Rodgers. And Russell Wilson was the plan B. And maybe they just didn't do the workup the way they should have. Maybe they just assumed. You make some bad assumptions pretty easily. And kudos to the Seahawks for pulling a pretty effective grift on the Broncos, unloading Russell Wilson at the absolute right time. Now, Chris, here's the question.
Yeah.
And I did the breakdown of his contract today. They're stuck with him for 2023.
Right.
I think in 2024 they could rip off the Band-Aid. What would happen if they would cut him this year? You're not trading that contract. Every penny's guaranteed in 2023 and 2024. No one is taking on that contract.
Nobody.
If you cut him after June 1, or you can cut him before June 1 with the post-June 1 designation, you would take a $22 million cap charge in 2023 and an $87 million cap charge in 2024.
Whoa.
So I don't think – I was yesterday suggesting maybe you deal with it. The money's already spent. The problem is it's not spent because he's due every penny in 23 and 24. I think the earliest you could dump him is 2024. That would be a net negative of $49.6 million. You would take a cap charge of $35.4 in 23 and then $49.6 in 24. But you're taking the $35.4 whether he's on the team or not. That's the key. You're taking that cap charge whether he's with you or not. And when you start thinking of it that way, we're going to take these cap charges in the coming years whether he's on the team or not. That's when it becomes not all that unattractive to just get rid of him. I mean, just get rid of him. Look, if he's this bad, we're not going to play him. Do we keep him on the team? Do we just say stay home? Or do we just say see you later? Go continue your career somewhere else. I just think these are real conversations, but I think they've gone into this. The fact that they didn't fire George Payton tells me they've gone into this with an idea that we have a potential plan for trying to fix Russell Wilson. That we're gonna hope that it was Nathaniel Hackett not coaching the guy properly, and we're going to bring in somebody who can coach Russell Wilson and see if we can get anything out of him in 23. If we can, great. If we can't, that's when we move on after 2023.
Yeah, I think they're stuck with this for at least, a little time here. This is one where I don't, with the investment you've made, I don't think you get out of it, as badly as it looked. You hang in there. You hope that, like you're saying, that, hey, it was a rookie head coach who just didn't do things the right way or connect with Russell Wilson and get things going in the right direction there, to where you hope that's part of the process. And then you hope, hey, through time and comfort and being here, that Russell Wilson regains a little bit of what he was in Seattle and becomes more comfortable and starts to become that guy that, we've seen him be throughout his history. So, yes, and again, that's now going to be a part of this search. And, of course, the head coach and who is hired, a big part of it's going to be just based around Russell Wilson. And wait, who can fix him? Who can justify our investment? Who can make him look good again? And that's going to be a big question. Definitely is, but it's going to be a big part of it. And, that's where
I would do?
Yeah, what?
This one occurred to me yesterday when Miles Simmons and I were doing an emergency PFTPM in the aftermath of the firing. I would hire Daryl Bevell to be the head coach and Brian Schottenheimer to be the offensive coordinator, because those were the guys before we started to think, is Russell Wilson a good quarterback? Those were the guys who were in charge of his career. Bevell from 2011 through 2017, he was part of that purge when they really started to move on from the Legion of Boom Seahawks after a disappointing 2017 season. But Bevell was there for the Super Bowl years. Bevell was the guy who ran that offense, and then Schottenheimer was the guy 2018 through 2020. Get both of them together. They were both together in Jacksonville last year trying to hold it together with Urban Meyer in charge. Make Bevell the coach, Schottenheimer the coordinator. You got the two guys that were able to get something good out of Russell Wilson. If you're going to try to salvage this guy, why not get guys that coached him and he did well with them? That to me is a no-brainer.
Well,
that is the obvious, clearest, cleanest fix.
I think there's a little more to that story. I do. You know, one, okay, those were successful years. That was a great team. I think if you ask most people in football, they'd go, if their offense was better, they would have won more than one Super Bowl. That was holding them back to a degree. And so that's where I don't know if I'm going to totally buy into that, concept there altogether, right? I understand what you're saying as far as you want to find somebody who's comfortable.
Who do you hire then if you want to fix him?
Well, I mean, of course, the shining beacon that's out there right now, of course, is Sean Payton. He's the one that makes the most sense to save the day. He runs a system that in a lot of ways Russell Wilson knows it's not that far off from what he's run here. He has history with smaller quarterback. So that would be the guy I would look at right off the bat. Again, there's this Broncos team. The defense is pretty good. It's one of those where you go, we can keep the defense and we can keep E.J. Evero. We got some receivers. So, I mean, he's the one right off the bat that, of course, comes to the forefront of your mind.
Let me just say this.
Yeah.
Given the reports that emerged over the weekend that Sean Payton is putting together an all-star cast, including defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, I have a feeling Fangio would not be the defensive coordinator of the Denver Broncos.
That's very
just
true.
Call that a hunch.
Yes, you're right about that.
That would not play out that way. I would want to know what Payton thinks of all this. And I was saying yesterday, at some point the Broncos need, if they haven't done it already, they need a consultant, not to come in and tell them who to hire. They need someone to tell them, and maybe they've already done this. I mean, you're talking about people with unlimited resources. Maybe they've already hired Peyton as a quasi-consult. I don't know. I mean, you don't know. There's so many people who are involved in these paid and unpaid consulting gigs that we never find out about. Who knows what names have been connected to the Broncos behind the scenes, working with them to tell them the basic question, the answer to the basic question, Chris. Why does Russell Wilson stink this year? Is it him or is it the coaching? And if it's him, how do we fix him? What would you do? And I remember Peyton on Colin Cowherd's show earlier this year saying, here's what I would do. Here's what I'd tell my people to do. I want all the clips of all the red zone plays. I want all the occasions where we've seen him roll out of the pocket and throw the 60-yard pass down the field. And I'd want to make sure that those plays are part of my playbook.
But they were. Like Peyton, I saw enough to know they were to a degree. That's where.
Were they doing it enough?
Well, maybe not enough. We talked about early in the year people being wide open with basic West Coast plays where he just didn't want to pull the trigger and he was looking at the rush. Also, I think when you go back and look at a lot of their offense and what we talked about, and I've broken this down a lot through the years, I mean, even in the red zone and all that, it's like, oh, the guy ran straight and he threw a bullet, or it's never always been within the system of play. Then also I think what you got to take into account, Mike, and we've discussed this a lot, you've talked about it a lot, where the play didn't matter a lot of the times for the better part of his career because his ability to move and create off of that, somebody got open. So then we get, maybe he missed that read or didn't see it or whatever, but it didn't matter. He made it happen. So that kind of got to be a part of the conversation too. But he doesn't move the same anymore. That's the concerning thing. And that's where, that's where if I'm a head coach, I'm worried about, Denver's got a lot of the positive things, but I'm not sure about the Russell Wilson thing. I'm not sure. And to what you said earlier in the show, Seattle had been telling people for years Russell Wilson wasn't what we all thought he was and that there was issues with his game. But I think, me included, thought, well, they're just saying that because they don't want to have to pay him so much and they don't want guys like me to say, hey, he's so good, and they have to now pay him $45 million a year. That's kind of what I think me and a lot of other people in the business thought. But, how could you not through this year start to realize, well, maybe they were telling the truth and there is issues. And that offense with Shane Waldron does look different with Geno Smith as it did compared to Russell Wilson. And that's where, Sean Payton or whoever, it'd be a little scary too for in my opinion, to go there and coach him at this age with what we saw this year and all of that. So there's some risk on the coaching side here too.
Yeah, that's the thing. Peyton would not be interested in this job for a second if he doesn't think that Russell Wilson can be fixed. Why would you even touch it? Wait for a job where you feel like the deck is more stacked in your favor, not walking into a situation where you're looking at a net cap charge of $87 million in 2024. If you get rid of him now, nearly $50 million. Beyond that, 2025, if you get rid of him now. I mean, it just makes no sense to do that unless you think he can be fixed. And there's there's two ways to look at it. I mentioned Bevell and Schottenheimer because those are guys who had success with him. But if it is about him, if he has lost his ability to move, and that's been my take all year, he no longer has confidence in his agility and speed, and that is affecting his game. That's making him
look at the rush more.
Use it.
Right.
He doesn't want the world to see he's not the guy he used to be. I mean, we can't assume that this obsession with his image that goes all the way back to when he was a kid and he was practicing press conferences, we can't assume that obsession with his image ends the moment he walks onto a football field. I think when he's on the field, he's as obsessed with what people think of him as he is off the field. So he doesn't even... I don't remember seeing many occasions this year where he tries to outrun somebody because he knows he can't anymore.
Right.
I think that's the core of it. So the only way you can fix him is to accept who he is now and design your offense based upon who he is now. And I don't know that you're going to find somebody who's going to happily do that. But I think they're going to give it one more year with Russ. They're going to give it one more year. They're going to operate under the premise that it was the coaching staff, not the quarterback, and we can fix him. Or at least we're going to try to. And if we can't, then that's when we rip the Band-Aid off and move on and take that $35 million cap charge in 24, $50 million in 25. Cost of doing business, oh, well, we admit our mistake and we move on. But I think that's what they're going to do. And I think the fact that George Payton is still there is the clue hiding in plain sight that they're going to try to fix Russell Wilson because he's the guy who traded for him and he's the guy who paid him.
Yeah, agreed there. And off your point, too, like if I am a guy like Sean Payton and have my pick of the litter as far as teams, that would scare the crap out of me. To where I'm with you. I would pick a team to go, I don't know. I'd rather go somewhere and be able to pick my own quarterback or go from there instead of being stuck with a guy to where, oh, no, it can really ruin my future plans for the rest of the football team because I might have to abandon ship after 2 years and he's going to cost however many millions against my cap and we won't be able to build the team the way I want to. So I feel like, again, it's going to be a guy that's, to take that challenge on. It's going to probably be a first-year head coach, hot coordinator that's out there that's making the rounds. And, that's going to be another dicey proposition there for the Denver Broncos.
Here's something I just thought of. And this may cross the line between outside the box and freaking nutty. But Sean Payton just strikes me as the guy who could speak this way to Russell Wilson no matter how difficult it may be for Russell Wilson to hear it. But what if before Sean Payton would take that job, before he would even make a decision as to whether or not he'd take that job, he gets in touch with Russell Wilson and he asks to have a one-on-one meeting, a sit-down, as my Italian mafioso colleagues may say. Let's have a sit-down. And during that sit-down, Sean Payton says to Russell Wilson in very plain, candid terms, I've watched the film. I've watched every play you've ever participated in for your entire career. And whether he has or hasn't, he can pull it off. He can tell him, I've watched it all, and I've come to the conclusion you just don't have it anymore. And if you're on my team right now, setting aside the contract, setting aside everything related to it, I would have to have that difficult conversation with you that I need to cut you because you're just no longer good enough. And that's okay. There's no shame in that. You had some great years. You're now at the point where you're just not good enough to play. And that's my assessment. You can take it for what it's worth. You can believe it. You can reject it. But what I would like you to do is search your heart and ask yourself whether or not you agree with what I'm saying and whether or not you should retire and allow this team to avoid this incredibly massive, or at least minimize this massive cap charge that it would be taking to move on from you. Keep the money you've already gotten, keep your $50 million signing bonus, but guaranteed money in 2023, guaranteed money in 2024. I mean, maybe you should just walk away from that and think of how you would be received if you acknowledge, I'm just retiring. I don't have it anymore, and I don't want money that I'm not in a position to earn. I mean, that would be a way to finesse this if you're Peyton, to get him to quit, get him to retire, get him to tap out, and give up his salary for 23 and 24. It still makes it a very difficult cap situation, Chris, but that may be the only way Peyton would take that job, is if he could convince Russell Wilson to just retire. And maybe he should. Maybe that's the right answer here. Maybe Wilson shouldn't want to come back and play another year and be further exposed as a guy who can no longer do it. At some point, your pride overcomes your stubbornness. So, again, it's one of the things I like about having these conversations. Things that I maybe would have never thought about pop out while we're doing it. And it may be nuts. I don't know. I await your response.
Well, that one was, I think, was more of the nuts.
Trying to get
that
Russell
was more
to
of the
retire.
nuts category there. I think that was more the nuts category. Okay,
thank you. Thank you for your candor.
Well,
now shut the hell up.
I mean, you know Russell Wilson. He ain't gonna give up. I mean, that's not gonna happen. And, to what we talk about all the time. Hey, Denver, you gave him this money. Eat crap. You're stuck with it. You wanted him. You got it.
I know.
So that's where Russell, as a guy for like you and me that stick up for the players and the money, you go ahead and make that money. They got to figure it out around you now. They went all in on you.
But what if you're not earning it? That's the problem.
I know. You're right.
That's the problem with guaranteed contracts.
Yes.
You're going to have guys that don't earn it, and there's less money available for the guys who deserve it. Yeah. That's the only problem with it. I'm all for guys getting paid what they're due and what they're worth, but I get a little nervous when you got guys that are getting paid all this money that they're not worth because someone else should be getting that money.
Agreed.
That's where I get a little queasy about this.
Mike, there's a lot of people that are getting queasy about that in the locker room. That's where the team starts to resent the quarterback who's making $50 million a year and doesn't play that well or isn't putting it on the line. That's where, yes, it's a very big issue. Or take accountability or be one of the guys and all of that. That's where the locker room turns on the QB. They want to feel like he's part of the team, the squad, wants to be there, everything involved. He's the most paid, but okay, he delivers and, he holds the team together in leadership ways and all. That's a huge part of the sport. It is. And I think it's part of the reason you're seeing Green Bay not quite as good because you got a little of that with Rodgers and what you're talking about. I think you talk to people in Tampa Bay, that'd be another reason. They'll tell you we don't think we're that good. The team not quite sure about Brady. Oh, he wanted to play for another team in the offseason. Do they really think he's like all in with the Bucs and all of that? So that is a big part of it. And Russell has failed in that department too, as far as making headway with the team and seeming to be a part of the locker room and one of the guys. It's part two that seems to be kind of an issue here once again.
Meanwhile, the Walton Penner Group is realizing that $4.65 billion doesn't buy what it used to buy. And as a wise man once told me, one of my favorite sayings that I use whenever and wherever I can, the only thing better than being rich and famous is being rich. And wouldn't they love to just go back to Arkansas and quietly run their multi-billion-dollar Walmart?
That's easy. This is fun. They don't know. They're probably enjoying this.
Is it fun? Is it fun to try to figure out how do we minimize the financial damage and the cap consequences of a quarterback that can no longer play? Who do we get to coach a quarterback who can no longer play? What do we do? Do we just keep banging our heads against the wall and hope that the guy... Look, Chris, the good organizations in the NFL recognize their mistakes and move on. The bad organizations, the dysfunctional organizations, double down. They're going to double down on this.
Well, they had a
chance
early
down on this and hope it was Nathaniel Hackett and not Russell Wilson.
They're tripling down at this point. I mean, they've already doubled down. They saw bad play and gave him an extension. They saw not great performance in training camp and gave him extension. So this is triple down now. And that's where it's like they're stuck. They're stuck here. And it's a weird issue to your point.
7 straight years of no playoffs since winning Super Bowl 50, the longest postseason drought for any Super Bowl champion. And I have a feeling it may continue a year or two. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.